Hello, my friend. My name is Bishop Dale C. Bronner, and I welcome you to a space where dry places are revived, weary hearts are restored, and empty cups are filled to overflow. If you're tired of just surviving and ready to walk in the supernatural abundance of God's power, you're in the right place. Here, we don't settle for just enough. We step boldly into a life where God overflows, not just fills. You'll receive wisdom to break limitations, faith to face adversity, truth that heals identity wounds, and grace that empowers purpose. Every message is a divine encounter, crafted to elevate your spirit and challenge your thinking. So don't just scroll. Stay a while. You're not here by accident. God has something for you today that could change your tomorrow. Welcome to the overflow. God doesn't just fill what's already full. He fills what's empty. And that, right there, is a divine principle too many overlook. We spend so much time trying to mask our emptiness, trying to hide our lack, trying to pretend like everything is overflowing when in reality we are dry, we are tired, and we are running on fumes. But I came to tell you today, God is not intimidated by your emptiness. In fact, He is drawn to it. He is attracted to the very places we try to hide. He specializes in meeting us in the hollow places, where there's room for Him to move. You see, when the widow came to Elisha with a cry of desperation, all she had was a small jar of oil. That's it. But her house was empty. Her soul was weary. Her hope was hanging by a thread. And what did the prophet tell her to do? Go and gather empty vessels, not a few. In other words, make room for a miracle. Bring your nothingness. Bring your void. Bring the places where life has run dry, because God isn't looking for full vessels. He's looking for available ones. It's not your perfection that attracts His presence. It's your surrender. It's the willingness to say, God, I don't have it all together, but here I am. I'm empty, but I'm open. And when you do that, when you finally stop pretending and start presenting your real self before the throne, God says, now I can pour. Now I can release what heaven has been holding for you. So many people are walking around spiritually dehydrated, emotionally exhausted, and mentally cluttered because they haven't created the space for God to fill them. You cannot be refilled when you refuse to be emptied of what doesn't belong. You cannot be refilled when you insist on carrying the weight that was never yours to bear. That's why Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That's not just a call, it's a divine invitation into exchange. Your emptiness for His abundance, your burden for His breakthrough, your weakness for His strength. When God fills, He doesn't do it halfway. He fills to overflow, but the miracle is always proportional to the space you give Him. If you come to Him with just a little cup, that's all He'll fill. But if you open up with an empty room, an empty jar, an empty heart, He will fill every single corner of it. That's why the woman in the story saw her oil keep flowing. As long as she had emptiness to offer, the supply from heaven didn't stop. But the moment she ran out of vessels, the oil ceased. That's a word for someone. Don't stop making room. Don't stop presenting your emptiness before the Lord. He's not finished filling you. Let's be real. Life will drain you. People will drain you. Responsibilities, stress, disappointment, unanswered prayers. They will all chip away at your inner reservoir. And if you don't come back to the source, you will find yourself pouring out from a dry place. But that's not the will of God for your life. He said, "He who believes in me, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water," not drops. Not puddles, rivers, flowing from a place that's been filled by the Spirit. So what do you do when you feel empty? You don't run from God, you run to Him. You don't hide your emptiness with pride or performance. You lay it down at His feet, because the emptier you are, the more space He has to show Himself mighty. The more you let go, the more He can give. The more you decrease, the more He increases. And He will never pour fresh oil into a vessel that's too proud to be still. You have to slow down, quiet your soul and make room for the refilling. Sometimes God will even allow us to go through seasons of emptiness just to show us the power of His fullness. He'll strip away the things we thought we needed so we can see He was all we ever really needed. He'll let the well run dry, not to punish us, but to reposition us. Because when you're full of distractions, when you're full of your own agenda, when you're full of everyone else's expectations, there's no room left for Him to move. Emptiness creates a space for the divine to dwell, and here's what's beautiful: when God fills, He also transforms. He doesn't just pour into you, He changes you. He takes your weakness and infuses it with strength. He takes your despair and saturates it with hope. He takes your confusion and anoints it with clarity. And when He's done, you're not just full, you're empowered. You're not just encouraged, you're equipped. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, because the Spirit of God now overflows in every part of your life. Stop waiting until you have it all together to come to Him. Stop thinking your brokenness disqualifies you. It is because of your emptiness that you qualify for His filling. Come as you are, come tired, come empty, come dry, come undone. And let Him pour into you until your soul is soaked with peace, until your heart is drenched with joy, until your mind is flooded with truth, until your life reflects the overflow of heaven. Because God doesn't just fill what's full, He fills what's empty. Let Him fill you. Your refill begins where your pride ends. God cannot pour into what pride has already sealed shut. A closed heart, a self-sufficient mind, and a spirit too proud to bend are barriers to divine restoration. And yet, how many times do we find ourselves holding on to control with clenched fists, believing that if we just try harder, manage tighter, or protect ourselves more fiercely, we will somehow hold it all together? But you cannot receive from God with hands that won't open. You cannot be filled if you're too full of yourself. There is a reason Scripture says, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. He doesn't just ignore pride, He actively resists it. Why? Because pride is a fortress we build around our own insufficiency. It is our way of saying to God, I've got this, when we really don't. Pride is loud, but the voice of grace is quiet. Pride wants to perform, grace wants to surrender. And until pride bows, grace cannot rise. That's why your refill, your renewal, your healing, your restoration begins the moment you release control. God is not asking for your perfection. He's asking for your permission. He's asking you to let Him in, and the gateway is humility. Humility is not weakness. Humility is the posture of power. It is the position that opens heaven. It's the recognition that I am not enough, but He is. That I cannot do it in my strength, but His strength is made perfect in my weakness. The moment we stop performing for people and start surrendering to God is the moment we step into a fresh encounter with His presence. Jesus gave us the greatest example of this when He knelt in the Garden of Gethsemane. Fully God and fully man, He said, "Not my will, but yours be done." That wasn't resignation, that was power. That was divine submission. That was the place where the strength to endure the cross was released. Through surrender, through humility, through the emptying of self, and it's no different for us. God doesn't bless pretense, He blesses surrender. He blesses the heart that is honest enough to admit its need. Too many of us are running on spiritual fumes because pride has kept us from the place of refilling. We want the power without the process. We want the anointing without the crushing. We want the overflow without ever being emptied. But God doesn't anoint the proud. He anoints the humble. He anoints the ones who say, "God, I don't care what it looks like anymore. I need you more than I need my image. I need you more than I need control. I need you more than I need to be right." Humility is the cup that catches heaven's rain. And the deeper your humility, the greater your capacity, because God can do more with your surrender than you can do with your strategy. We are not called to manipulate outcomes. We are called to trust the outcome to the one who sees the end from the beginning. But as long as pride sits on the throne of your heart, God will wait. He will wait until you're tired. He will wait until you've exhausted your own strength. He will wait until you realize that your wisdom, your network, your experience, none of it can accomplish what only He can do. Some of the delays in your life aren't because God is punishing you. They're because He's waiting for your pride to die. He's waiting for you to take your hands off the wheel. He's waiting for you to stop demanding your own way and start trusting His. And when you do, when you truly let go, you will find that what you were trying to hold together in your own strength, God can restore with just one word. The Pharisee prayed with pride in his chest. He bragged about all he had done right. But the tax collector, broken and humbled, beat his chest and said, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." And Jesus said it was that man, the one who humbled himself, who went home justified. God is not looking for religious performance. He is looking for surrendered hearts. He is looking for people who don't just want to look right, but who want to be right with Him. There is no shame in needing God. That is the very essence of our relationship with Him. He is the vine, we are the branches. Apart from Him, we can do nothing. That's not poetry, that's truth. The more deeply you grasp your dependence on Him, the more freely you can live. Because when you let go of control, God steps in. When you bow down in humility, God stands up in power. When you stop striving to hold it all together, God starts moving in ways you couldn't have imagined. So ask yourself today, what is pride keeping you from receiving? Is it keeping you from peace, from healing, from forgiveness, from breakthrough? Don't let pride rob you of what grace is ready to give. Don't let your need to appear strong keep you from accessing true strength. Lay down the mask, lay down the burden of pretending, lay down the illusion of control, and make room, real room, for God to pour into you because He's ready. Heaven's supply is never the problem. The question is, can you receive it? Can you admit your need? Can you get low enough to catch the rain? Because it's falling. It's always falling. But it gathers in the lowest places. And when your heart bows in surrender, when your pride breaks at the altar, when your soul finally says, "God, I can't do this without you," then, and only then, the refill begins. Let God in. You're not forgotten. You're being repositioned for overflow. Just because it feels dry doesn't mean God has abandoned you. Just because the doors haven't opened doesn't mean He isn't working. Just because the answers haven't come doesn't mean He hasn't heard you. There is a difference between divine silence and divine absence, and many times what we interpret as neglect is really preparation. God isn't punishing you, He's positioning you. He's adjusting the ground beneath you so that when the blessing comes, you're not just ready to receive it, you're able to sustain it. We cry out for overflow, but what good is overflow if your foundation can't hold it? What good is overflow if your character is cracked, your faith is fractured, your vision is unclear? God is not in the business of temporary blessings. He's in the business of eternal impact. And so before He releases the overflow, He strengthens the vessel. Before He releases the promise, He refines the person. What feels like a delay is often divine construction. There are times when God will pull you back, not to push you aside, but to launch you further. Like an archer pulling back the bow, the tension isn't to harm, it's to give force to the release. And that tension you feel in this season, that dry place, that long wait, it's not rejection, it's redirection. He's stretching your faith, He's enlarging your capacity, because the size of your overflow will always reflect the depth of your preparation. Don't mistake a holding season for a hopeless one. Don't mistake a wilderness for a waste. Moses spent 40 years in the desert not because he was forgotten, but because he was being formed. David was anointed king as a boy, but he didn't step into the palace until years later. Why? Because calling and capacity must align. It's dangerous to step into something prematurely, before your heart is ready, before your roots are deep enough, before your spirit is steady. And so, in His wisdom, God allows the dryness to do its work. Because dry places expose what distractions can hide. Dry places reveal what prosperity might cover. And in that stillness, in that space where it seems nothing is happening, God is doing His deepest work. You may not see it, but He's shifting things around you and inside you. He's breaking off things that can't go with you to the next level. He's severing relationships that were seasonal so He can introduce those that are covenantal. He's pruning back what once bore fruit because He's preparing for something greater. And pruning is not punishment, it's promise in motion. You're being pruned for power, cut back for capacity, stripped down for strength. Sometimes God will dry up the brook to move you to the next place of provision. Elijah sat by the brook Cherith while God fed him with ravens, but then the brook dried up. Did God fail him? No. God was shifting the prophet's position. Because the same God who used birds to feed him by the brook had already prepared a widow to sustain him in Zarephath, the blessing moved, and Elijah had to move with it. If you're feeling the dryness, it's not because God left. It's because He's leading you to something new. You're not stuck. You're not being overlooked. You're being repositioned. God knows exactly where you are, and He knows exactly what He's doing. He hasn't lost sight of your prayers, your tears, your obedience, your sacrifice. He sees every moment you stayed faithful in the silence, every time you gave when it hurt, every time you served without applause, and none of it is wasted. In fact, it's being stored up. There is a fullness of time coming where every seed you planted in the dry ground will produce harvest, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And here's what makes the overflow even more powerful. It doesn't come when you feel most ready. It often comes when you least expect it, because God wants you to know it's not by might, not by power, but by His Spirit. He'll show up in the midnight hour. He'll break open the windows of heaven when you feel like quitting. He'll send the rain after the drought has left you gasping, and you'll know it wasn't you, it was Him. Your pain has purpose, your silence has strategy, your wait has weight in the Spirit. Because when you finally step into the overflow, you will be able to hold it, carry it, and pour it. You will not be overwhelmed. You will be prepared, because God has aligned your capacity with your calling. That's why He's been refining your faith, stretching your patience, sharpening your discernment. That's why He's been silent, not to starve you, but to strengthen you. He's been preparing the ground, because overflow is not a moment. It's a movement, and once it starts, it doesn't stop. So stand still. Stay faithful. Keep your eyes lifted. You're not buried. You're planted. You're not forsaken. You're being forged. You're not forgotten. You're being repositioned. And when the time is right, when the season shifts, when the heavens open, you will look back and understand why the dryness was necessary, why the silence was sacred, why the waiting was worth it, and you'll see that what felt like abandonment was actually alignment. You'll realize that the entire time God was not far. He was near, working behind the scenes, preparing you for overflow. Stay in position. Empty is not the end, it's the beginning of your next miracle. It might feel like a breaking point, but in God's economy, emptiness is a birthing place. When everything familiar has been stripped away, when the strength you once depended on has faded, when the options seem to have run out and the doors are all closed, it's not over. In fact, that's when heaven leans in. That's when the miraculous begins to move. Because God never starts with what's full. He starts with what's empty. He uses the void to create the vision. We serve the same God who stepped into a formless, empty earth and spoke, "Let there be light." He created the galaxies not from substance, but from silence. He shaped the heavens from nothing and breathed life into dust. And that same creative power is at work in your emptiness. What looks like a loss is fertile ground for life. What feels like lack is space for the spirit to move. Emptiness is not your enemy. It's your invitation to experience what only God can do. There are some things God cannot release into cluttered lives. There are blessings too large for already full hands, and so He allows the emptiness not to destroy you, but to prepare you. He removes the scaffolding you leaned on, the people you depended on, the routines you trusted in, until there is nothing left but Him. Because He wants you to know that the next miracle is not coming from your hustle, not coming from your plans, not coming from your network. It's coming from Him alone. God does not fill prideful hearts. He fills surrendered ones. He's not looking for polish. He's looking for openness. And emptiness is the doorway to openness. It strips away your excuses. It shuts down your distractions. It silences the noise so you can finally hear the whisper of His Spirit. And that's when the shift begins. That's when your eyes start to open. That's when your heart begins to stretch. Because before God fills you, He shapes you, and shaping requires space. The widow in 2 Kings had nothing but a small jar of oil and a house full of empty vessels. And yet, when she followed the prophet's word and closed the door behind her, the miracle happened. The oil didn't run out. It kept flowing from one empty vessel to another. And the flow didn't stop until the emptiness ran out. That's a picture of what God does in us. As long as there's emptiness, as long as there's surrender, as long as there's space for Him to move, the oil will keep flowing. But the moment we close ourselves off, the moment we stop bringing Him our need, we limit the very thing He wants to multiply. You may feel like you've come to the end. You may feel like everything has been drained from you. But don't confuse emptiness with defeat. That feeling you're carrying is not the end, it's the beginning of something holy. It's the edge of breakthrough. It's the quiet before the wind of God moves. It's the space where He builds altars, where He rewrites stories, where He restores what was lost and multiplies what was surrendered. The enemy wants you to panic in your emptiness. He wants you to believe you're finished, but God is saying, be still. I'm just getting started. The dry season is not permanent. The silence is not forever. The night will not last always, and when God steps into your void, He doesn't just refill you. He overflows you. He doesn't just replace what you lost. He restores what you didn't even know was missing. God is drawn to empty things. He filled empty nets with fish. He filled empty jars with wine. He filled an empty tomb with resurrection power. He specializes in taking what's void and turning it into victory. So don't resist the season you're in. Don't despise the lack. Don't curse the quiet. The absence you feel is an opportunity for divine presence. The lack you face is the setup for supernatural supply. The stillness around you is the space where God's voice becomes clearest. And when He moves beyond your expectation. You've been asking for enough to get by, but He's preparing to give you more than enough. You've been hoping for survival, but He's setting you up for overflow. But He can't pour into what's already full of fear, full of control, full of pride, full of doubt. That's why the emptying comes first. That's why He allows you to come to the end of yourself, so you can finally come to the beginning of Him. The wilderness teaches you to depend on the manna, not the method. It teaches you to trust the provider, not just the provision. And sometimes God will dry up the familiar streams just to show you that He is your source, not the job, not the relationship, not the platform, Him. And when He becomes your everything, you realize that emptiness was never your enemy. It was His classroom. It was where you learned to trust in the dark, to worship when it hurt, to stand when everything said sit down. Emptiness strips away what's temporary so God can establish what's eternal. It purifies your motives. It clarifies your calling. It sharpens your discernment. And by the time the miracle comes, you're no longer chasing the blessing. You're clinging to the one who blesses. That's where real power lies. That's where real peace is born, not in the fullness of things, but in the fullness of Him. So bring Him your empty hands, bring Him your dry heart, bring Him your quiet, your confusion, your disappointment, your nothingness. He's not repelled by your lack. He's ready to work through it. Don't wait until you feel strong. Don't wait until you figure it all out. Step into the emptiness with faith and watch God speak light into your darkness. Watch Him breathe on the dust. Watch Him move in the silence, because He still creates miracles from empty places. Let God begin again in your emptiness. Stop running on fumes. Come back to the well that never runs dry. You've been grinding, pushing, stretching, carrying more than you were ever meant to bear, and now your soul is tired. Your joy is running thin. Your peace is barely holding together. You're functioning, but you're not flourishing. You're showing up, but you're worn out, and deep down you know it. You know that something's missing. You know that you've been trying to draw from a well that's already gone dry. But God is calling you back. Not back to a place, not back to a formula, but back to Him. Because He is the well that never runs dry. You weren't created to run on empty. You weren't designed to live off of yesterday's strength. There's a reason Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That invitation is still open. That offer has not expired, but you have to come. You have to turn around. You have to admit that your own strength is not enough, because God will never force Himself into a life that's too busy to receive Him. He waits for the invitation, and when you come, He doesn't meet you with shame. He meets you with living water. Some of us have been surviving on drops when God has rivers, trying to squeeze fulfillment out of routines, trying to find purpose in performance, trying to manufacture peace through temporary pleasures, but none of it satisfies. You can keep pouring out all you want, but if you never stop to refill, you will collapse under the weight of what you were never meant to carry alone. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowds to pray. Even the Son of God stepped away to be filled. So what makes us think we can live without doing the same? The issue is not your schedule. It's your source. You've been going to broken cisterns that can hold no water, relying on relationships, on recognition, on productivity, on affirmation to give you what only God can give, but they leak, they fail, they run out. And you're left tired again, frustrated again, drained again, because you cannot sustain your spirit with things that feed only your flesh. You need something deeper. You need the well. In John chapter 4, Jesus met a woman at a well who had been running on relational fumes. She had been searching, striving, trying to fill a void with human connection, and it left her empty every time. But when she encountered Jesus, everything changed. He said, "Whoever drinks this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst." He wasn't offering religion. He was offering refreshment, not a new habit, but a new heart. And when she received it, she left her water jar behind. Because once you taste living water, you don't go back to the old source. And that's the decision in front of you today. You can keep running, keep striving, keep pressing on in your own power, or you can come back to the well. You can fall into the arms of the one who doesn't require performance, but promises peace. You can be honest with your weariness, you can confess your exhaustion, and you can receive freely, fully, without limit, because there is no quota to God's grace, no shortage in His supply. The well is still open. The Spirit still flows, and the water is still living. God is not impressed by how long you can go without Him. He's not moved by your ability to pretend everything is fine. What touches His heart is your vulnerability. What invites His presence is your surrender. So stop pretending. Stop trying to be everything for everyone while slowly dying inside. Stop acting like burnout is just a part of life. It's not. It's a warning light. It's a signal from your soul that says you're disconnected from your source. And the truth is, what you're pouring into others is only as pure as what you've received from Him. If you don't refill in his presence, you'll end up spreading your frustration, your bitterness, your emptiness. But when you come to the well, when you sit at his feet, when you soak in his word and let his spirit breathe on your dry places, something shifts, something breaks, something revives, because he doesn't just patch you up. He makes you new. You might feel too far gone, too busy, too distracted, but God doesn't need your perfection. He needs your presence. He needs your willingness. He needs your yes. And when you come, you won't leave the same. That heaviness you've been carrying, he'll lift it. That anxiety that's been choking your thoughts, he'll quiet it. That dryness in your soul, he'll drench it, because he's not a temporary fix. He's a fountain of life. He's not a Sunday, only Savior. He's an ever-present help in time of need. The world will drain you, but God will fill you. People will take from you, but God will pour into you. Life will deplete you, but his presence will refresh you. But you must come, you must return. You must stop running on spiritual fumes and reconnect to the well. No more band-aids, no more distractions, no more delays. This is the hour to return to the one who restores, renews, and revives. Because what he has for you is not just survival, it's overflow. So come as you are, weary, dry, frustrated, empty. Come and drink from the well that never runs dry. Let him be your source again. Let him fill every barren place. Let him restore your soul, because he's not done with you. He's just getting started, but first, you must come back to the well. Let God refresh you again. God is not just a filler. He's an overflow specialist. He doesn't come into your life just to patch up what's broken or top off what's low. He comes to saturate you, to saturate your thoughts, your heart, your atmosphere, your identity, until you're not just holding it together, but walking in divine abundance. He doesn't operate in scarcity. He doesn't ration out blessings like a tight-fisted supplier. He is Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides, not the God who provides barely, but the God who provides abundantly. There is no shortage in his storehouse. There is no limit to his reach. There is no cap on his power. He is not interested in giving you just enough to make it. He desires to overflow your life until what's in you starts spilling over to everything and everyone around you. That's why Psalm 23 doesn't say, "You fill my cup." It says, "My cup runs over." Because when God steps in, he doesn't just meet the need. He exceeds the expectation. He moves in measures that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard. He brings joy unspeakable, peace that surpasses understanding, strength made perfect in weakness, and when he blesses, he doesn't bless you in private. He prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. He anoints your head with oil, and he lets your cup run over, because overflow is not about ego. It's about evidence. It's evidence of a life connected to the supernatural source. It's evidence that God is not only in the house, but he's running the house. Some people settle for just enough because that's what they've gotten used to. They've adjusted to survival mode. They've been through so many dry seasons, so many losses, so many letdowns, that their faith has shrunk to fit their fear. But let me remind you, your past does not cancel God's promise. The lack you've experienced before does not limit what he can do now. God doesn't operate based on your history. He operates based on his glory. He's not held back by your pain, your failures, your mistakes, or your delays. He still has overflow in mind, but to walk in overflow, you must shift your expectation. You can't come to the table of abundance with a teaspoon mentality. You've got to come with a vessel prepared to be filled and a heart open to believe again. This is not about prosperity, it's about provision. It's about the kind of God you serve. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he didn't hand out just enough for everyone to get a taste. The Bible says that after they all ate and were filled, there were 12 baskets left over. That's overflow. That's the nature of our God. He gives in surplus. He blesses beyond the minimum. But notice this, he didn't give the overflow before the need. He gave it after the obedience. After the disciples brought what they had, after the people sat down in faith, after the act of trust, came the miracle of multiplication. You've got to bring your 5 loaves and 2 fish. You've got to bring your limited strength, your small ideas, your broken pieces, and place them in the hands of the limitless God. Because in your hands it's not enough, but in His hands it becomes overflow. What you've been calling not enough is actually the setup for a supernatural outpouring. But you must surrender it. You must let Him break it, bless it, and multiply it. And here's what you need to understand overflow is not just for your benefit. It's for others connected to your assignment. There are people hungry for peace, desperate for hope, starving for truth. And God wants to use your overflow to feed them. That's why He won't let you stay in survival mode. That's why He's breaking limitations off your life, because you are called to carry more than enough. To live from a place where what He pours into you begins to spill into your home, your workplace, your ministry, your community. This is not the season for crumbs. This is not the season for barely getting by. This is the season where your cup runs over, not just to satisfy your soul, but to release rivers into the lives of others. That's why the enemy fights you so hard. Because if he can keep you depleted, he can keep you distracted. If he can keep you stuck in cycles of just enough, he can keep you from seeing the God of more than enough. But no more. This is your season to break out, to lift your eyes and see that the well is not dry, the oil has not stopped flowing, the manna is still falling, God is not done pouring, and your cup has not seen its fullest capacity yet. But hear this, you must position yourself for the overflow. You cannot be casual about your connection and expect a consistent flow. You've got to dwell in the secret place. Stay rooted in the Word. Open yourself daily to His Spirit. Because God doesn't fill full cups, He fills empty ones. When you bring your emptiness, your weariness, your vulnerability, God meets it with overflow. He takes what's dry and makes it drenched. He takes what's low and fills it till it spills. And He doesn't stop until it's more than enough. So don't settle, don't shrink, don't apologize for walking in overflow. You've been through too much to live in lack now. You've been pruned, stretched, broken, and tested. But now it's time to reap in abundance. Time to live restored, revived, and running over. Let God be who He really is in your life. Not a patch, but a fountain. Not a moment, but a movement. Not a filler, but an overflow specialist. Your cup is about to run over. If this word stirred something in your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you never miss a moment of what God is pouring out. I believe your best days are still ahead, and this is only the beginning. Until next time, walk in purpose, stand in faith, and live in the overflow. God bless you. I'll see you in the next word.